Every leader has a moment, that quiet pause between I think I can, I'm not so sure. Welcome to Tutum Talk with me, Cara. Together, we'll explore what it means to lead with heart, to build confidence not from control, but from connection. Because your leadership isn't about perfection, it's about presence. And when you trust yourself, your team will too. Join me as we explore leadership in the everyday and beyond. There's a quiet pressure many leaders carry, not the loud, obvious kind, but the subtle kind that settles into the body over time. The pressure to arrive, to finally feel confident, to reach some invisible finish line where leadership suddenly feels easier, clearer, more assured. As if leadership is something you work toward, and once you get there, you're supposed to stay there. But what if leadership was never meant to be a destination? What if leadership is less about reaching certainty and more about staying present with change? Because leadership doesn't happen in stillness, it happens in motion, in seasons, in moments of uncertainty, learning, and recalibration. If you've ever wondered whether you're doing leadership quote unquote right, if you've ever felt behind, unsure, or quietly exhausted by the pressure to know what's next, this episode is for you. You are not a finished product, and neither are your people. Somewhere along the way, many of us absorbed a story about what leadership is supposed to look like. That good leaders move quickly, have answers, appear confident even when they're unsure, and that pausing, questioning, or changing course is a sign of weakness. So when we don't feel resolved, when we're still learning, still evolving, still questioning, we often turn that inward. We think, I should be better at this by now. Other leaders seem more confident than I feel. Or if I let people see my uncertainty, they'll lose faith in me. But leadership isn't about having it all figured out. Leadership is about showing up honestly, especially when things are complex. You are allowed to be learning and leading at the same time. In fact, leadership that pretends to be finished often creates distance, while leadership that stays human creates trust. For many leaders, becoming feels uncomfortable because growth brings questions, and questions can feel destabilizing, especially when others look to you for steadiness. You might worry, will people feel less secure if I'm still evolving? Will uncertainty undermine my authority? Is growth something I should do privately, not visibly? But becoming doesn't mean being ungrounded. Becoming means staying anchored in your values while allowing your thinking, your approach, and your leadership to evolve. It means saying, I'm paying attention. I'm listening to what this moment is asking of me, and I'm willing to learn. Leaders who allow themselves to become don't weaken trust, they strengthen it. Because people trust leaders who are real, who are reflective, who aren't pretending to be someone they're not. Leadership that leaves room for becoming is often quieter than we expect. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't rush, it doesn't dominate the room. It sounds like, I don't have this fully figured out yet, and I'm open to learning. It also sounds like, let's pause before we decide. Or it sounds like, what are we noticing that we might be overlooking? And it could also sound like, what's changing for you right now? And how can we respond together? It feels like curiosity instead of control, reflection instead of reactivity, trust instead of micromanagement. This kind of leadership creates psychological safety, not through grand gestures, but through consistency, through tone, through listening, through permission. Permission to think, permission to try, and permission to grow. When leaders feel pressure to be finished, teams feel it too, and often without words. It shows up as fear of making mistakes, reluctance to share new ideas, exhaustion from trying to look competent instead of being curious. People begin to play it safe. They stop asking questions, and they stop bringing forward what feels unfinished or uncertain. And over time, this takes a toll. Burnout increases, creativity narrows, and connection thins. But when leaders model becoming, when growth is welcomed instead of hidden, something shifts. People relax. They engage more fully. They stay, not because everything is perfect, but because it's honest. If you find yourself in a season of reassessment, if your leadership feels quieter, slower, or more reflective than it used to, that doesn't mean you're losing ground. You're not behind. Your team is not broken. And this season is not a sign you've failed. It's a chapter where something new is forming. Leadership isn't about proving you've arrived. It's about creating conditions where growth is possible for you, for your people, for what comes next. And this is exactly why I created the 6 and 6 Mastermind. Not as a place to fix leaders, but as a place to become. 6 and 6 is for leaders who carry responsibility quietly, pour into everyone else, and since they're evolving, but haven't had space to reflect. It's a 6-week experience designed to slow things down, a space where you don't need to have answers, where reflection is valued and growth isn't rushed. Each week offers intentional prompts, shared reflection, and grounding conversation, so you're not becoming alone. It's not about reinventing yourself. It's about reconnecting with who you already are and who you're becoming next. If leadership feels like it's asking more of you right now, 6 and 6 is an invitation to meet that call with care. And here's a reflection question for all of you. Where in your leadership are you being invited to become rather than arrive? And what might shift if you allowed that process to unfold with patience and compassion? You don't need to be finished to lead well. You just need to stay present. If this episode resonated, I invite you to explore whether the 6 and 6 Mastermind feels like a supportive next step or to reach out for a one-on-one conversation. There is room for you here, exactly as you are and exactly as you're becoming. Thank you so much for joining me here today. So thankful you're here. I look forward to connecting with you on the next one. Take good care. I know you have a lot of options on how you carve out your day and spend your time, and I'm honored that you decided to spend some time here today at Tutum Talk. Remember that leadership, it isn't something that we master once. It's something we grow into, moment by moment. My hope is that today offered you a little more clarity, a little more courage, and a reminder that you're not leading alone. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who might need it too. And remember, confidence doesn't come from having all the answers. It grows from connection, curiosity, and the courage to keep showing up. I'm Cara, and this has been Tutum Talk, exploring leadership in the everyday and beyond.